Now let's start with today's story. This isn't just about a cheating wife. It's about betrayal from every side. My best friend, my family, the people I thought had my back. I've seen it all. And if you're looking for advice, well, I guess I'll start from the beginning. Lana, 29, the woman I thought would be my forever. We met 7 years ago at a party thrown by a mutual friend. I remember feeling out of place the second I walked in. Social settings aren't my thing. Small talk? A nightmare. I would have much rather been at home, working on a random tech project or playing video games. But my buddy convinced me to come out, told me I needed to stop hiding in my cave. So, there I was, awkwardly standing by the snack table, counting down the minutes until I could leave. And then Lana walked in. She had this energy, this presence, that made everyone want to talk to her. She wasn't just beautiful. She was magnetic. Loud laughter, big gestures, and stories that had the whole room hanging onto her every word. She made a party full of strangers feel like old friends. Someone like that? Noticing someone like me? No way. Except she did. She walked right up to me, grabbed a handful of chips and smirked. "You look like you're trying to disappear into that wall." I chuckled, a little embarrassed. "Is it that obvious?" Painfully, she teased, popping a chip into her mouth. "You don't like parties?" "Not really my thing," I admitted. "Then why'd you come?" I shrugged. "Peer pressure." "You?" She grinned. "Same. But hey, at least there's good snacks." That was it. That's how it started. We ended up talking the rest of the night, and for the first time, I didn't feel out of place. We exchanged numbers before we left, and the rest, well, I thought it was history in the making. A year later, we moved in together. It just made sense. My parents loved her immediately. My mom couldn't stop gushing about how lucky I was, and my dad, who's usually a man of few words, actually started conversations with her. That was rare. He'd always been reserved, but with Lana, he opened up. She fit in with my friends just as easily, maybe even better than I did. And the one person she bonded with the most? Sean. Sean's been my best friend since high school. The guy who was there through every breakup, every late-night crisis, every dumb decision I've ever made. He even went to a different college than me, but that didn't change a thing. We visited each other, called, kept in touch like nothing had changed. He was the kind of friend who'd help you move and refuse to be paid with anything but pizza. He was family. When he met Lana, they clicked instantly. At first, I thought it was great. My best friend and my girlfriend getting along? What's better than that? They were both big personalities, the kind that lit up a room, so they'd crack jokes and roast me playfully. It never felt like I was being left out, though. It was just fun. When I proposed to Lana after 3 years, Sean was the first person I told. "It's about time, man," he grinned, pulling me into a hug. "You two are perfect together." He even helped me pick out the ring. Lana loved it. She said it was exactly what she would have chosen for herself. I remember feeling so proud, so sure I was making the best decision of my life. The first few years of marriage were great. Lana worked at a boutique while I grinded away in IT. Long hours, tough projects, but I wanted to make sure we were stable, not just us, but my parents too. We didn't have a lot, but we made it work. Then Lana started hating her job. She'd come home frustrated about difficult customers or bad shifts. One day, she decided she'd had enough. "I want to figure out what I'm passionate about," she told me one night. I didn't even hesitate. "Then quit," I said. "We'll figure it out." And we did. She dabbled in different projects, keeping herself busy while I took on extra hours to make sure we were okay. Sean was still a huge part of my life, even though we didn't hang out as much. But when we did, it was like nothing had changed. Then Sean started stopping by when I wasn't home. At first, it was rare, just a random afternoon here and there when Sean was in the neighborhood or needed to grab something he left behind. No big deal. Lana would mention it casually like, "Oh, Sean came by earlier." I chalked it up to coincidence. Maybe he had extra time on his hands, or maybe he just liked hanging out with both of us. It did bother me a little, but I pushed it aside. Then his visits became more frequent. 3 times a week turned into 4, then 5. It wasn't just random drop-ins anymore. He'd be there when I wasn't home, helping Lana with things I hadn't even agreed to yet. One day, I came home early from work. Our systems went down, and there wasn't much else to do. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard voices in the kitchen. I walked in and saw Sean tightening a cabinet door with a screwdriver while Lana leaned against the counter, watching. They didn't hear me at first. "Wow, Shah," I said, setting my bag down a little harder than necessary. "Looks like you're running a side hustle as a handyman." Lana let out a nervous laugh. "I didn't think you'd mind." He offered. "Offered?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Since when does my best friend offer to do housework for my wife without mentioning it to me? Sean straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag. Hey man, just trying to keep the place in one piece while you're out there killing it at work. No big deal. I forced a chuckle, but something about the whole situation felt off. I didn't say anything else. I didn't want to make a scene, especially since nothing technically wrong was happening. But the question nagged at me. Why was Sean so comfortable hanging out here when I wasn't around? Then came the texts. Lana started spending more time on her phone, laughing at things she wouldn't share with me. When I asked, she'd say, "It's just the group chat with the girls." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But one night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. I wasn't snooping. I was literally moving it off the edge so it wouldn't fall. That's when I saw Sean's name light up the screen. Haha, you're hilarious. I'll save the date. It wasn't like I caught anything incriminating, but something about the tone felt weird. What date? And why was Sean texting Lana like that? I didn't say anything, but for the first time, I felt uneasy. The coincidences started stacking up. Sean always seemed to know when I'd be working late. If I mentioned in our group chat that I was stuck at the office, guess who'd show up at my house within the hour? And Lana, she didn't just allow it. She welcomed it, like his visits were the highlight of her day. It started to bother me more than I wanted to admit. Not just because Sean was always around, but because of how natural it seemed to them. Like they had their own rhythm, their own little bubble I wasn't a part of anymore. The turning point was when I realized how little I actually knew about what was going on between them. When was the last time I'd been included in one of their jokes? When had Lana last told me about something funny Sean said instead of just texting him back directly? It ate at me. Not in a jealous way. More like a what's really happening here kind of way. I decided to test the waters. One evening, while Lana scrolled through her phone on the couch, I leaned against the counter and said, "Hey, we haven't done a game night in forever. Why don't we all catch up this weekend? I'll make nachos or something." She didn't look up right away. "I think Sean's busy this weekend," she said after a pause. I tilted my head. "Oh yeah? Did he tell you that?" That caught her off guard. She blinked and shook her head. "No, I just assumed. He's been working a lot, hasn't he?" Now, here's the thing about me. I don't let things slide when they feel off. I wasn't about to let her change the subject without getting to the bottom of it. "Well, I'll ask him," I said casually, pulling out my phone. "If he's free, it'd be good to hang out. It's been a minute since we all did something together." Lana didn't argue, but she didn't seem thrilled either. That night, I called Sean. "Yo, what's up?" He answered. "Not much," I said. "Hey, thinking of doing a game night this weekend. Just like old times. You down?" There was a brief pause, then he said, "Yeah man, let's do it. I've got nothing going on this weekend. Been meaning to catch up anyway." Interesting. So much for him being busy. When the weekend rolled around, something felt off. Lana was quieter than usual, barely engaging in conversation. Sean, for all his usual charisma, seemed more reserved too. I was watching both of them closely, trying to pick up on anything out of place, wishing my thoughts were wrong. They exchanged a few quick glances that I couldn't quite decipher. You know when you're in a group and two people share an inside joke, and you're the only one out of the loop? That's exactly what it felt like. Halfway through the night, I asked Sean about work, just normal guy talk. But before he could answer, Lana chimed in. "Oh, he's been killing it lately, so busy with that new project." Sean gave her this sideways look, and I swear it was like a silent shut up. It wasn't even that what she said was weird. It was the way she said it, like she was speaking for him. After Sean left that night, I asked Lana straight up about it. "You two seem pretty close these days," I said, keeping my tone light but direct. She shrugged. "You're imagining things. Sean's your best friend. Why would you even think that?" I dropped it for the moment, but my instincts were screaming that something was going on. I couldn't prove it yet, but I wasn't about to let this slide. I decided to keep watching, keep listening. If something was happening between them, I was going to find out. At first, I told myself to take things slow. I didn't want to jump to conclusions and risk looking like some paranoid husband. But the more I paid attention, the more things didn't add up. It was in the way Lana seemed to light up whenever Sean was around, the way her phone would buzz with messages she always claimed were just the girls, and the way Sean always seemed to know exactly when I wouldn't be home. About a week after our awkward game night, I came home to find Lana sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Sean dropped by earlier," she said casually without even looking up. "Oh yeah? What for?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "He just needed to grab something," she said, brushing it off like it was nothing. But my gut was telling me otherwise. Why did he always need to grab something? What was he leaving behind so often that he had to come over multiple times a week? I decided to call Sean later that night, just to see if his story matched up. Hey man, Lana said you stopped by earlier. Everything good? He hesitated for a split second before saying, oh yeah, just forgot my sunglasses from last time. That hesitation was all I needed to know something wasn't right. Sean never hesitated. He was the smooth talker, always quick with a joke or a story. That pause told me he was scrambling to come up with something believable, but I still didn't have proof. The breakthrough came a few days later. Lana told me she was going out to dinner with friends, which wasn't unusual. She dressed up, wore perfume, and left the house in a rush. I didn't think much of it until I heard a notification buzz. It wasn't my phone. It was hers, sitting on the counter. She'd forgotten it. Now, I'm not proud of what I did next, but I had to know. I unlocked her phone. It was easy. She used the same passcode for everything and went straight to her messages. Sure enough, there were dozens of texts between her and Sean. Most of the texts were harmless, at least on the surface. Banter, random memes, even small talk about the weather. But as I scrolled further, I noticed a pattern. Messages sent late at night, ones that were deleted mid-conversation, and just enough vague phrases to make my stomach churn. Then I saw a message that stopped me cold. It was from Sean, looking forward to later. Same time, same place. I stared at it, my mind spinning. Same time, same place. What did that even mean? I had no clue what this place could be, but I wasn't about to let it go. My first thought was to check Lana's calendar app. She was meticulous about scheduling, so I figured if they'd been meeting somewhere regularly, there might be a clue. Sure enough, I found a recurring appointment every 2 weeks at 7:30 p.m., labeled as gym night. But here's the thing. Lana didn't even have a gym membership. That wasn't enough to prove anything, though, so I kept digging. Her location history was turned off on her phone, but her Google Maps app still had recent searches saved. When I opened it, I saw a nearby hotel listed as visited 2 days ago. A pit formed in my stomach. I hadn't even known she'd left the house 2 days ago. Still, I couldn't jump to conclusions. Maybe she was meeting a friend there for coffee at the attached cafe. Or maybe I was grasping at straws. But then I remembered something. Sean and I had stayed at that hotel once during a road trip years ago. He knew it well, and it wasn't the kind of place you'd go unless you had a reason. I decided to test my theory. I opened a browser on my laptop and searched for local hotels, pulling up their reservation systems. After a little trial and error, I found the hotel and clicked Find My Reservation. Using Sean's email address, it hadn't changed since high school. I plugged in a few guesses for recent dates. Bingo. There it was. A reservation under his name for a room last week, and another one for that very night. I felt like I'd been slapped. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. My hands shook as I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure I wanted the answers to. When I pulled into the parking lot, I didn't know what I was expecting. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that this was all some huge misunderstanding. But then I saw them. Lana and Sean walked out of the hotel lobby together. She was holding onto his arm, and they looked comfortable, too comfortable. I stepped out of my car and called out Lana. The look on her face was a mix of shock and guilt. Sean looked like a deer in headlights. I stood there, staring at them, my best friend and my wife, caught in the act. My hands trembled. My breathing came in sharp bursts, and my heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Lana's voice was the first to break the silence. Jerry, she started, her voice trembling. This isn't what it looks like. Don't, I said, cutting her off, my tone sharper than I intended. I don't want to hear it. Sean, my best friend since we were dumb kids in high school, took a hesitant step forward. Look, man, let's just talk about this. Talk about what? I snapped. How you've been sneaking around with my wife. How long has this been going on? Huh? Since the shelves, or was it before that? Neither of them answered. Sean, my so-called best friend, just stared at the ground like a coward. And Lana, the woman I had vowed to love, to build a future with, stood there, biting her lip, looking more annoyed than ashamed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something, break something, make them feel a fraction of the pain they had just dumped on me. But I couldn't move. My chest tightened, like my body was physically rejecting the reality of what my eyes were seeing. You don't even have anything to say? I asked, my voice cracking under the weight of my emotions. Sean finally looked up, but instead of guilt, his face twisted into something pathetic, like he was trying to show sympathy. Jerry, man, don't, I snapped, cutting him off. You didn't what? Didn't think I'd find out? Didn't think it would hurt me? You've been my best friend for over a decade. You stood next to me at my wedding. You told me I'd found my soulmate. My voice grew louder, harsher. Now what the hell am I supposed to do with this? His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He just looked at me, like I was the one who had done something wrong. And Lana? She didn't even bother defending herself. No excuses. No apologies. Just silence. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't say a damn thing. That silence was worse than any lie she could have told me. I turned on my heel and walked out, feeling like I was wading through quicksand. Each step was heavier than the last. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. My entire world had been shattered, not just by my wife, but by the one person I had trusted most outside of her. The betrayal from Lana hurt, sure, but Sean? That was something else entirely. It felt like someone had reached inside me and ripped out my heart. He was supposed to have my back. He had seen me at my lowest, knew everything about me, my fears, my dreams, all of it. And now, I couldn't stop wondering how long he'd been laughing behind my back. For the next few days, I barely functioned. I replayed every moment over the past few months, trying to figure out what signs I had missed. When did my wife and my best friend become strangers to me? The morning, I woke up and decided I was done. I barely recognized myself. I wasn't a man anymore. I was a shell. Lana was downstairs acting like nothing had happened, moving around the house like she still had a right to be here. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't trust myself to. Instead, I called a lawyer. Starting the divorce process felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. Every signature, every document was a reminder of the life I thought I had and the people who had destroyed it. I didn't tell Lana right away. I needed time to process everything, to get all my ducks in a row before I confronted her again. When I finally handed her the papers, she broke down. "Jerry, please," she sobbed, grabbing my hand. "We can work through this. I'll cut him off. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't give up on us." I stared at her, watching the tears spill down her face, and instead of feeling sorry for her, I felt disgusted. The woman in front of me wasn't the one I had married. She was a stranger, someone who had taken everything I had given her and stomped it into the ground. "Save your tears," I said coldly. "You didn't just betray me, Lana. You destroyed my entire life, my marriage, my trust, my best friend. Do you even get what you've done?" She sobbed harder, trying to grab my hand again. "Jerry, I'll cut him off. I'll fix this. Just give me a chance." I pulled my hand back. "Fix it? You already made your choice, and it wasn't me. You chose him, and you don't get to act like there's anything left to save." She kept crying, but I didn't care. "You wrecked everything," I said. "I'm done." And with that, I walked away. I didn't look back. I thought that was the end of it. The divorce was messy but straightforward. I wasn't interested in dragging it out. I just wanted a clean break. And I thought I'd finally started to regain some control. But then I made the mistake of telling my parents. I sat them down, expecting the kind of righteous anger parents are supposed to have when someone hurts their child. I thought they'd be on my side, furious on my behalf. Instead, my mom gave me this sad, almost pitying look. "She must have felt so lonely," she said softly, shaking her head. "You've been working so much, Jerry. Maybe she just needed someone to talk to." I froze, stared at her, hoping I had misheard. "Mom," I said slowly, my voice dangerously calm. "She didn't just talk to him. She slept with Sean, my best friend. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's betrayal." Before my mom could respond, my dad jumped in, his tone even. "Son, marriage is hard. People make mistakes. Are you sure this is worth throwing everything away?" "Throwing everything away?" I clenched my fists. "She cheated on me with Sean. You've known him for years. He was like family. And you expect me to just forgive and forget? Do you even understand what you're asking me to do?" They didn't respond. They didn't have to. The look on their faces said it all. Then it hit me. "Did Lana come to you?" I asked. My mom hesitated, glancing at my dad before nodding. "She came crying," she admitted softly. Like that explained everything. And there it was. Lana had gotten to them first. Of course she had. I could imagine how it went down. Lana, with her perfect ability to play the victim, showing up at their house, tears streaming down her face. She probably made it seem like the world had turned against her, like she had nowhere else to go. My parents, who had loved her like a daughter from the moment they met her, would have opened their arms without hesitation. "She's so sweet, so thoughtful." My mom always said about Lana, "You're lucky to have her." My dad wasn't much of a talker, but even he once called her a gem. Lana knew exactly how they felt about her, and she used it. She must have spun them a story so convincing they didn't even question it. I could hear her words in my head. Nate's been so distant. He works all the time, and I felt so alone. Sean was just trying to be supportive, and things got confusing. Lana was good at this. She always knew how to get people on her side, how to make them believe whatever she wanted them to. She cried the right amount, said the right words, and let my parents fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. And they ate it up. To them, she wasn't a cheating wife. She was the poor, lonely woman who had made a mistake because her husband wasn't emotionally present. And Sean. My parents adored him just as much as they did Lana. Sean had been around my family for years. He was the guy who would show up for family dinners, joke with my dad about football, and compliment my mom's cooking like it was Michelin-starred. He was the good kid, the one they trusted to always do the right thing. There was no way they'd believe he was capable of stabbing me in the back, not unless I had physical evidence to show them. To them, Sean was the golden boy who had probably just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. My dad rubbed his temples, looking uncomfortable. Nate, you know how much we care about Sean. He's been like a second son to us. Maybe things just got out of hand. Maybe he didn't mean for it to happen. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Didn't mean for it to happen? Dad, they didn't trip and fall into bed together. They planned it. They lied to me for months. And you're sitting here defending them? Lana didn't tell us all the details. My mom said quickly, as if that excused her loyalty to them. She just said she made a mistake and felt terrible about it. She said she didn't want to hurt you. Are you kidding me? I snapped. She destroyed my entire life. She betrayed me with Sean, and now she's got the two of you defending her. I can't believe this. Nate, we're not taking sides, my mom said, her voice shaky. We just don't want to lose anyone. We don't want the family to fall apart. You're already losing me, I said sharply. You've already taken her side. You're choosing her and him over me, and you don't even realize it. My mom's eyes filled with tears. That's not true. We love you, Nate. We're just trying to understand what happened. Lana said she felt abandoned, and Sean was just trying to help. Stop. I interrupted. Don't even finish that sentence. If you can sit here and believe anything she says after what she's done, then maybe you never really had my back in the first place. The room fell silent. My dad looked at the floor. My mom wiped her tears. And I stood there, feeling like I had just lost everything. It wasn't just Lana and Sean. It was my parents, too. Lana's manipulation had worked perfectly. She had turned my parents against me, and now I wasn't just fighting her and Sean. I was fighting my own family. A week later, I found out just how deep Lana's manipulation went. I was still annoyed with my parents, but I went to their house unannounced to drop off some money. I had been helping them financially for years since retirement had stretched their savings thin. It wasn't a big deal to me. I saw it as part of being a good son. But when I walked through that door, I saw something that made me stop cold. Lana and Sean were sitting at the dining table with my parents, laughing, drinking coffee, acting like they were family. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the scene. My dad was chuckling at something Sean said. My mom was refilling Lana's cup. And the two people who had betrayed me were right at the center of it all, like they belonged there. They didn't even notice me coming. I slammed my hand on the table so hard the mugs rattled. What the hell is this? I demanded, my voice sharp and loud enough to cut through their fake little tea party. Everyone turned to look at me, their smiles vanishing. My mom looked startled, like she'd been caught sneaking cookies before dinner. My dad immediately glanced down, avoiding eye contact. Lana looked calm. And Sean smirked. Nate, this isn't the time, Sean said, leaning back in his chair like he owned the place. I couldn't believe the audacity. My blood boiled, and I could feel the anger bubbling to the surface. Not the time? You're sitting in my parents' house, at my family's table, after screwing my wife behind my back, and you think you can tell me it's not the time? Sean crossed his arms and shrugged. We were just enjoying ourselves, man. You need to calm down. Calm down. He actually said that. I was already shaking with rage, but then he had the nerve to add, look, we're family, Nate. You need to stop making this so hard for everyone. This isn't just about you. I lost it. Family? You think you're part of the family after what you did to me? You don't even deserve to step foot in this house. Lana decided to chime in at this point. Nate, we're just trying to move forward. We didn't mean for you to find out like this, but Sean and I. Don't you dare, I said, cutting her off. Don't you dare try to justify this. You destroyed our marriage, and now you're sitting here laughing with my parents like nothing happened. How long have you been planning this? How long have you been sneaking around behind my back? Sean leaned forward, his smirk disappearing. Since we were in college, he said, his tone cold and flat. Everything in the room froze. My parents went silent. Even Lana looked at him, startled. What did you just say? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. You heard me, Sean said. Lana and I were meant to be together. We knew it back in college. We went to the same college, Nate. But you got in the way. You always had to be the hero, didn't you? Always had to take what wasn't yours. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about years of friendship, years of trust being ripped apart in one sentence. You've got some nerve, I said, my fists clenching at my sides. I gave you everything. I trusted you. You were supposed to be my best friend. And this is how you repay me? Sean stood up, towering over the table. I don't owe you anything, Nate. Lana and I are happy now. You need to grow up and accept it. That was it. I lunged at him, grabbing the front of his shirt and shoving him back against the wall. You think I'm just going to accept this? You think I'm going to sit back while you waltz into my family and act like you belong here? Sean pushed back, his hands gripping my arms. Let go, man. You're just embarrassing yourself. Enough, my dad shouted, stepping between us and forcing us apart. That's enough, Nate. This isn't how we handle things in this house. I stepped back, breathing hard, my hands still balled into fists. How we handle things? I glared at him. You're letting him into your house, Dad. You're treating them like they did nothing wrong. Who even are they? Complete strangers. You're supposed to be on my side. I'm your son. Nate, my mom said, her voice trembling, we're trying to keep the family together. Family? I lost it at that. There was no point arguing anymore. You think this is family? Fine. Enjoy your new son and daughter, then. Because you just lost me. I stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind me. My dad didn't call after me. My mom didn't try to stop me. The only sound was Sean's voice, smug and confident. He'll get over it. I didn't get over it. Not until I made damn sure he got what he deserved. One thing became crystal clear that night. I was done. Done with Lana. Done with Sean. Done with my parents. They had made their choices, and now I was going to make mine. When I got home, I opened my laptop and canceled the monthly transfers to my parents' bank account. For years, I'd been helping them out financially, quietly paying bills, making sure they never had to stress about money. I never thought twice about it because they were my parents, and I thought that's what you do for family. But after what I saw at that dinner table, they didn't deserve another dime from me. They could ask Sean, since he was now their son. It didn't take long for them to notice. 2 weeks later, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. The next day, my dad texted me, we need to talk. I ignored it. If they wanted to play happy family with Lana and Sean, they could do it without my help. But that wasn't enough. Cutting them off financially was just step one. Next, I turned my attention to Sean. The smug bastard thought he'd gotten one over on me, but he underestimated just how much I knew about him. See, Sean wasn't as squeaky clean as he liked to act. Back when we were younger, he'd been involved in some shady business deals. Nothing major, but enough to leave a trail, if someone knew where to look. And I knew exactly where to look. I spent a few late nights digging through old files, emails, and conversations. I compiled everything. Shady transactions, every time he'd bent the rules at work, every little skeleton in his closet. Then, I sent it all to his boss. Anonymously. It didn't take long for the fallout to hit. A week later, Sean lost his job. The guy who smugly told me to get over it was suddenly scrambling to make ends meet. And Lana? She wasn't exactly thrilled about going from cozy dinners with my parents to scraping by on whatever Sean could scrounge up. But I wasn't done. I still had access to some of our shared accounts from when Lana and I were married. Nothing illegal, just little things she'd forgotten to change over. So, I made sure to lock her out of anything I had control over and canceled every subscription she freeloaded off me. Netflix, Spotify, even her favorite meal delivery service, gone. Satisfying? Absolutely. The final blow came when I reached out to a lawyer friend and had a formal letter drafted, demanding that Lana return the few sentimental items she'd taken when she left. Stuff that actually mattered to me. She ignored the letter at first, but when she realized I wasn't backing down, she had no choice but to hand them over. By the time I was done, their little fairy tale life was crumbling. Sean couldn't find steady work because his reputation in the industry was shot. Lana was stuck with a man who couldn't provide for her the way I had. And the best part? My parents started feeling the strain, too. When the financial support stopped, reality hit them hard. Their bills started piling up, and the comfortable retirement I'd been subsidizing wasn't so comfortable anymore. It didn't take long before they came knocking. I'll never forget the day my parents showed up at my apartment. My mom looked desperate. My dad looked exhausted. "Nate," my mom started, her voice shaky. "We're sorry. We didn't mean to hurt you. Can we talk?" I crossed my arms. "Talk about what?" "How you chose Lana and Sean over me. How you laughed with them while they destroyed my life." Tears welled up in her eyes. "We made a mistake. Please. We're family. Don't shut us out." I let out a bitter laugh. "Family? You replaced me with Sean and Lana. Enjoy them." My dad finally spoke. "We were wrong. We thought we were keeping the peace, but we lost you instead." I stared at them. "You don't get to pick and choose when to support me. You made your choice. Now live with it." They left without another word. And for the first time in weeks, I felt in control. I found out through mutual friends. It was inevitable, really. The moment Sean lost his job and Lana realized she wasn't living in the cushy life she had with me, things spiraled fast. But I hadn't expected it to get this bad. Lana and Sean had a huge fight. One of those ugly, screaming matches that everyone in their apartment complex probably heard. She was furious that their money was gone, that he couldn't get another job because his reputation was in shambles, that she had hitched her wagon to a sinking ship. Sean, of course, had his own version of the story. He blamed her for everything, said she was the reason things had gone south. "I had a good thing going until you came along," he reportedly yelled at her. "If I'd never met you, none of this would have happened." Lana, never one to back down, shot back. "You think I ruined your life? You were always a loser, Sean. You just hit it better before." That was enough to send him over the edge. He snapped. And this time, it wasn't just yelling. He beat her, badly. Neighbors called the cops when they heard the crashes and screams. By the time help arrived, Lana was barely conscious, her face swollen and bruised, blood staining the carpet. Sean was still there, standing over her, breathing hard. He didn't even resist when they cuffed him. "She's in the hospital now. Broken ribs, a concussion, a fractured arm. It'll be a while before she gets out. The doctor said she's lucky to be alive." As for Sean, he's sitting in a jail cell, facing charges that are far worse than just assault. Turns out the DA isn't going easy on him. Apparently, there were some prior incidents in his past that had been overlooked before, but now they're all coming back to bite him. The word is, he's looking at some serious time behind bars. As for my parents, well, their comfortable little life didn't last long once I cut them off. Without my financial support, the bills piled up. The house, the home I grew up in, was too expensive to maintain. They had to sell it. The money didn't last long either, and in the end, they had no choice but to move into a government-subsidized old-age home. They still try to call. I see their names pop up on my screen, hear the phone buzzing late at night. I never answer. The phone rang again. Same number. Same desperation. My parents had been calling for weeks, but I never answered. I had nothing left to say to them. But for some reason, this time, I picked up. "Nate?" My mother's voice was shaky, like she had been crying. "Oh, thank God. You finally answered." I stayed silent, waiting. "Your father. He's in the hospital," she said, her voice breaking. "I need money, Nate. I don't know what else to do. Please." I let out a slow breath. "Call family. Nate, you are my family. You're my son. You could help us." I laughed bitterly. "You made your choice when you chose Sean and Lana. Remember?" I said coldly. "I'm dead to you. Isn't that what you made clear?" "Nate, please," she pleaded. "Your father is. What hospital is he in?" I cut her off. There was silence on the other end. "Mom," I said, my tone darkening. "What? Hospital?" More silence. A slight fumbling sound, as if she were scrambling for an answer. He's at St. Vincent's. I mean, no, he was transferred to Mercy." I clenched my jaw. "Try a better lie." She gasped softly. "Nate, why are you lying?" I asked flatly. "Tell me the truth." A beat of silence. Then she whispered, "Lana, she needs money for her treatment." I closed my eyes. The audacity. Unbelievable. "She's suffering, Nate." My mother tried again. "She's in so much pain. Please." I exhaled sharply. "If you ever call me again, I'll file a restraining order." "Nate, I'm dead to you, right?" I said, my voice eerily calm. "Good. Never call me again." I hung up, and just like that, it was over. After that last call, I was done. I didn't just block my parents, I erased them. Their numbers, their emails, every possible way they could reach me. I made sure they had no access to me whatsoever. I was beyond angry. I was furious. The betrayal still burned in my chest, and every time I thought about their lies, about how my own mother tried to manipulate me for Lana. It only made me feel more justified in my decision. They made their choice. Now they had to live with it. For a while, I stayed in the city, but I knew it was only a matter of time before my parents found a way to try again. They always did. I wasn't about to give them another chance to sink their claws into me. So, I left. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not my old friends, not my extended family, not even the few people I still considered close. I packed up, found a new place in a different city, and started fresh. No baggage, no reminders, just a clean slate. And you know what? It worked. For the first time in years, I felt free. No obligations, no guilt, no one leeching off me or twisting my kindness into something they were entitled to. I built a new life on my own terms, surrounded by people who actually valued me for who I was, not for what I could give them. Now, I'm doing better than ever. I've met someone, a woman who doesn't carry the weight of my past or expect me to fix her problems. She's kind, she's funny, and most importantly, she makes me happy. For the first time in a long time, I'm looking ahead instead of behind me, and I have no regrets. I'm finally free. I'm finally at peace. I am happy.